Hello, I'm Daniela Fair. I'm Defense One Group publisher, and I'm pleased to be with you today. Our accelerated digital transformation is great for business operations, but it does significantly increase our reliance on technology and data, creating opportunities for greater cyber attacks, with critical infrastructure being the most vulnerable. Joining me to discuss the challenges facing critical infrastructure is Paul Decker. He's the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Parsons Cyber Business. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you for having me, Daniela.
Let's get right into it. We've got a little bit of time here. We've seen a dramatic increase in cyber attacks against national critical infrastructure over the past 5 years. So I'd like to know, Paul, in your opinion, what is the root cause of that increase, and how concerned are you about the security of our nation's infrastructure?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Daniela. And let me first start out by saying, one, I'm very concerned, and I think every American should be equally concerned. You know, there has been persistent and sustained and enduring increased targeting of critical infrastructure. And the reason, is because there hasn't been a genuine interest by the critical infrastructure owners in taking the cybersecurity threat seriously. As I mentioned, it's enduring, it's persistent, and it's continuing to evolve. And so when you look at cybersecurity, it has to become a priority for the critical infrastructure owners and the critical infrastructure industry. Otherwise, there is going to be serious national security and public health implications. One of the biggest challenges that we have within critical infrastructure is that 85% of critical infrastructure is privately owned and privately operated. And that percentage spans. So there's no clear enforcement mechanisms. There's no incentivization. There's no penalization for not being cyber secure, resilient, and survivable. And so more has to be done, and more can be done. And it's going to take the public-private partnership to drive the change that we're looking for.
I know the DoD mandates strong cybersecurity practices and information sharing, but as you point out, that requirement doesn't exist with critical infrastructure. So I'd like to ask you, should it? And if so, how do you encourage that accountability and collaboration?
Yeah, so when you think about the cyber threat, it's rapidly evolving. I mentioned it's enduring and it's persistent. And industry has to accept that the legacy security models that we approach these problems, they're no longer adequate. And so we have to evolve, we have to adapt. And so when you look specifically around information sharing and those guidance and mandates, I absolutely believe that there must be enhancements to information sharing and accountability with regards to indicators of compromise and just overall cybersecurity sharing within the critical infrastructure segment. And so looking specifically around the DoD model with regards to those minimum security standards, these have to be the minimum basis that critical infrastructure owners and operators are utilizing. And it's going to come through auditing, it's going to come through enforcement. We also have to take a look at a similar model that we have within the DoD. We take offensive cyber, and we really use offensive cyber or active cyber through penetration testing to really inform those defensive measures that are needed to be put in place to remediate vulnerabilities, as well as other gaps within an infrastructure. And that truly has been beneficial for the department as well as other federal customers. And that's truly a model that I think the critical infrastructure owners should certainly look to adopt, or at least start to move the pendulum towards that angle. There's never going to be enough money to fully secure our infrastructure, but there has to be more increased accountability and partnership, and it certainly will drive the change that's necessary.
Well, protecting critical infrastructure is clearly a matter of national security. Paul, what do you think needs to happen for better cyber protection of our infrastructure?
Yeah, Danielle, I think it comes down to three things, in my opinion. One, we talk about information sharing, but there's got to be a set of national standards. We have to have accountability, and accountability is on both sides, right? It's on the critical infrastructure owners and operators, but then it's also on the users, the general public that is engaging, involving, and utilizing. And then we also have to have unity of cyber effort, cyber mission, to really address some of these low-hanging fruits, just the normal vulnerabilities that are just part of the infrastructure, critical infrastructure environment. And it's going to take a new way of thinking, things like zero trust, assuming that hackers are going to get in. So we must learn how to operate in that kind of environment. There are plenty of opportunities for us to continue to improve the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure, and it's going to take the public-private partnership to make it successful.
Paul, thank you so much for sharing your insights today with me and with our audience. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniela.